Hi, I'm Bishop Ed Morrow of the Celtic Church of the Way, and I'm coming to you want to talk about, I've had a lot of people that are asking me still about this terrible storm that has wreaked havoc in North Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia, South Carolina, and Florida, Hurricane Helene. And even had one lady wrote in, and she was wanting to know if this was a judgment from God. I'm not going to get into all that. Mostly what people are wanting to know is what's going on now. Where do we stand now? How are things going now? We are over a month out away from the storm. And I have talked to many people. I've met many people. I've ministered and prayed with many people. And there's just something that this thing is not going to be out of people's minds for a long time. We did see some things that never happened. For example, hurricanes don't come 600 miles inland. Local media is trying to downplay it, and they calling it a tropical storm, but it was not a tropical storm. It was still very much a hurricane. If you Google how strong was Hurricane Helene when it hit Asheville, North Carolina, it'll tell you it was a Category 4 hurricane. I don't think it was that strong. I think it was probably a strong 1 or maybe a weak Hurricane 2. We had sustained winds up to from 65, 75 miles an hour with gusts from 85 to 120 miles an hour. We also had a total of, right here in the area where I'm at, 33 inches of rain. Some parts of the county got 31. Some to the north of us, I'm told, only got about 29. But just a tremendous amount of rain, tremendous winds. And what the other thing that made this storm so very devastating was 3 days before the storm got here, we had a cold front that stalled over us that poured 10 inches of rain on us before the storm ever got here. And so the ground was thoroughly saturated. The creeks and streams and rivers were already up high, and it was already a volatile situation. From what I'm understanding, that people were expecting, when I say the people, I'm talking about officials, were expecting 10 to 15 inches of rain. That's what they were calling for. They released water from the reservoir, from what I'm understanding, from what I'm being told, and expecting 10 to 15 inches of rain. They were not expecting 33 inches of rain. Now, I'm told that the floodgates at the reservoir operate on a automatic system, that once water gets to a point that they open automatically. I don't know. I'm just going by what people have told me. And so I don't know if they open the floodgates or the floodgates open. But I'm told that the water came at such a high rate that it was actually pouring over the top of the dam, which is something that never happens. So a tremendous amount of rain has fallen. Tremendously high winds. You can imagine trees down, telephone lines down, sinkholes, mudslides, landslides. And we call them landslides, but what they actually call them are debris fields. And what that is that's basically when the mountain cuts loose and just runs down the mountain. It's very liquidy type mud, but it's such strength it takes trees, houses, cars, whatever's in its path, it takes it away. And out in the Fairview community, here in Buncombe County. They had a debris field, a landslide, that was over 2 miles long and just wreaked devastation to an entire community that had no warning. At least here in the Swannanoa area, where we had massive flooding, our firefighters got out and they patrolled and was announcing through loudspeakers to evacuate, mandatory evacuation. Unfortunately, some people chose not to evacuate and lost their life. I've heard of an individual who blames the fire department for not telling them to evacuate. Well, they were told. Many people have told me that they heard the evacuation order and had sense enough to leave. So we had massive loss of life that the news is not properly reporting. And I'm told by officials that they do not report the death toll, those who have died, until they have identified the bodies. So while the news media is saying it's like 100 or 200 now, it's really actually a lot more. I had one tell me today that the number was actually up around 3,000. I do not know. I've not gotten that from official sources, and most of the official sources will lie. They will not give you an accurate number. So what's going on now that we're over a month, over 40 some days after the storm? People are trying to find some sense of normalcy. Those who did not lose their homes, things are getting back to normal. Power is back on. Water has been restored. They're actually saying that the water is clean now, although they did find lead in the water, so a lot of people don't trust it. More and more, we're starting to see aid stations disappear. And people have been so good about coming, setting up aid stations, sending loads of water, loads of clothing, loads of supplies, daily supplies, a multitude of baby supplies like formula, diapers, so forth. A lot of the clothing that I have seen in some of these aid stations are more summer type clothing. And where the real need is actually warmer clothing. We have people who had a house but now are living in a tent. And it is well into the fall season. And this weekend we're supposed to have some of the coldest temperatures yet. So warmer stuff is preferable. We still have a few places that are coming and setting up, giving out hot food. That's been really good. There's been so very many people. I've met and talked to so many people that the Lord has just impressed upon their heart to come. And I'm not talking about, just feeding a few people. We're talking about feeding thousands of people. Had a fellow that I met in a parking lot. He was giving out hot dog lunches, and you get a hot dog, a bag of chips, cookie, and a drink. And by the end of the day, he had given out 1,400. When he finally ran out of food, he'd given out 1,400 meals. There's other organizations and churches, just way too many to name them all. We had a couple of Amish groups that come up and very delicious food. And the men folk were building these little like sheds, but for people to get out of tents and get in something a little more secure, a little more comfortable, something that's easier to heat. And you know, I heard somebody say, well, all these people getting all these free houses and free campers. You got to understand something. Can you imagine going from living in a house to living in a storage shed? Now, yes, these people are very grateful for what they're getting. People are living in, you know, there's been a lot of people that have donated campers and stuff. And these people are very appreciative. But listen, if you got husband, wife, and 3 kids, and all of y'all are in a camper, that's close quarters. There's no privacy. And then consider this, you know, they're setting these things up in areas where there's no water hookup, no electrical hookup, you know. And so, yeah, it's a little more comfortable than a tent, but it's not the comforts of home. And so, you know, we're very appreciative of people coming and donating these things, because it is a wonderful thing that they're doing. But the reality is we still have people that are in desperate situations. Yes, some of them have improved and they've gone from a tent to a camper or to a shed. But we're still talking about very small areas. And with all the stress that's going on, with all this storm, you know, it makes it hard. Tempers are on edge. And things get said that aren't really meant, but it's hurtful. And families they're struggling. I've talked with multiple people whose children who had to be rescued out of very swift running water. These children are waking up with night terrors. They're scared to death from this trauma. I've not heard of anybody trying to offer any kind of counseling for PTSD. You know, normally we think of PTSD from men and women who have served in the military, but post-traumatic stress disorder can happen from any kind of traumatic incident. And when you're having to be rescued off your roof as your house is floating downriver, that's pretty doggone traumatic. And so we're having to deal with things that you would think would never have to deal with. And then on top of that, they're being lied to. You know, the media is not reporting the truth. And these people want to know why. They want to know why their stories are not really being told. Outside news media have come in, and some of those have been a little more truthful about the situation here and things. You know, they're showing the area and showing the damage, and there's a lot of damage. And this storm literally has changed the landscape. It has changed the direction or the path of the river. This is not just a little high water. I heard somebody say the other day, well, all I had was a little high water. No, when the water's 29 feet deep and moving at 70 miles an hour, that is a force that is unbelievable. That is a force that is unbelievable. So don't try to downplay this. Don't try to play it off as just being a little water, a little this, a little that. This was a major traumatic event. And people out there are suffering, not just physically, but emotionally. And then we have volunteers that have come down. Spoke with an individual earlier today from the Cajun Navy. Very wonderful group of people. And we are so very grateful for them being here. But this individual was on cadaver duty They were out searching for bodies. And this individual had come across a 4-year-old child that drowned in the mud. And they uncovered her while digging. And he looked at this child, and he said it looked so much like his own daughter that he just broke down. And as he was telling me this, he had tears streaming down his face. And these people are committed to being here. And they are God sent. They really are. And so I encourage people, if you're in this area and you bump into some of these relief workers, whether it's Cajun Navy, whether it's Samaritan's Purse, Baptist Disaster Relief, or any of the many others that have come, that from all over the country, thank them. Thank them for what they're doing for our community. Thank them for the sacrifice, because many of those have families at home. And they're keeping life going at their home while these individuals are here helping us. It is quite shameful to see people take advantage of some of these relief workers. You see it a lot when people that are giving out meals. I was at one place, man had a truck up there, and he was cooking hot dogs, and there was just one little group of people, and they were taking everything that he put out there, and others weren't able to get anything. And finally, this man ran out of food, and these people, this group of 5 or 6 of them, but probably had consumed enough food for 30 people. And so it happens. Places that are giving out food. I'm getting reports of people going and rummaging through the clothing, finding the nicer stuff, and then taking it out and selling it. What? Are you serious? Are you kidding me? What is wrong with people? I'll tell you what's wrong with them. They need Jesus. So we do have crews out here. I have 40-some days after the event. They're cleaning up the debris. There's places where you used to couldn't see, like if you're standing on Highway 70, you used to couldn't see old Highway 70 because there's all these houses and trees and all this stuff, and now you can see it plainly because all that's gone. There's places where houses used to be, there's tents set up now and so forth. But people are dealing with it the best way they can. People are, they find themselves in situations that they don't know how to cope. There's a major bridge out, and that bridge links Swannanoa with Asheville. It's in what's called the Otine area, and that bridge is out. And now to get into Asheville, you have to go way out of your way, and people are just distraught. What are we gonna do? How is that possible? I've heard people saying, how can our community do without a grocery store? Our grocery store got flooded and destroyed. They're in the process of rebuilding it, but it's going to take time. And people saying, how are we going to survive without these things? There's still, over 40-some days after the event, there's still panic in people. There's still unrest. There's still distress. There's still things that they've not been able to deal with that need to be dealt with. They have pains. They have emotional scars that may never go away. I've talked to several people. One elderly lady came into where I work, and she was needing to purchase some oil for her car, and she was lost. And she said, I don't know what it takes. I don't know what kind. I don't know how much. My husband always handled that. But when the floodwaters came, he went to get something out of the yard. And I sat and watched him. I begged him not to wade out into that water. And then I saw this big wave come and just wash him away. And she said the last things that she heard in the darkness was him screaming, "Oh God, oh God, oh God." I talked to one young man who was living in a trailer park that is very well known for drugs in our area. And he himself wasn't an addict. And I call him the M&M man. He carries this big pouch of M&Ms with him. And he told me that he was in this trailer, he was at his home and everything, and the floodwaters came and their house started moving, and they were trying to get out, and he saw his girlfriend and his baby washed away. And he said the water was so high that he ended up getting onto a tree limb that was pretty high off the ground. And he held on for dear life. But he said that he realized God had saved him for something. And he told me that he thought back. He was thinking about, reminiscing that in a time like this, what do you think? And what come to his memory was times when our fire department had to go and administer Narcan to him to wake him up. And he said, I should have died several times from an overdose, but I was spared. And I witnessed my girlfriend and my child get washed away, but I was spared. And he said, I know that God has a purpose for me. And he says, I'm giving up drugs. And in the month after this storm, I've gained 20 pounds and I keep eating these M&Ms. And he says, every time I get that itching for a fix, to do drugs, I eat M&Ms. And I kind of laughed and I said, that's crazy. Why do you do that? He said that one of his bad trips that he had to, they had to use Narcan on him. He had been eating M&Ms. And he said he was so sick that he threw up M&Ms for 3 days. And so when he wants to do drugs, he eats those M&Ms so he can remember how sick he was. And carries this huge bag around with him. But the stories are heartbreaking. And they're still very real. And these wounds are still very open. So some 40 some odd days after the storm, I encourage you, pray. Pray for these people. Pray the scriptures for all the people affected by this storm, not just here in North Carolina, but out from Florida all the way to Tennessee. It's not natural for a hurricane to come 600 miles inland. And so people need to wake up. People need to realize that God is trying to send us a message. He is trying to get us to turn back to Him. Some people will. Some people's going to end up being bitter. We need to pray, Holy Spirit, do whatever is necessary to help these people cope. Me and our other bishops, all of our other clergy, we are available anytime to pray with people, to just listen, if that's what it takes. You know, sometimes people just need to talk, and they don't need somebody to fix them. They just need somebody to listen. Sometimes they need to cuss, and sometimes they need to spit and yell and do other things, and just to get it out of them so it's not just bottled up inside. Because if you keep it bottled up inside, it will eat away at you. So, I encourage you to pray, I encourage you to ask God what He would have you do. We're going to set up a Venmo for our church. If anyone would like to donate money to that, we will have that information at a later date. You can follow our Facebook page. And we invite you to follow us on Facebook, Celtic Church of the Way. Our local parish is the Church of St. David, Celtic Church of the Way. You can follow that. We have 2 monastic groups on Facebook, and one of those is the St. Kentigern's Celtic Monastic Community, and the other one is Monastery of the Celtic Heart. And I'm going to do a broadcast on just the monasteries and the work that they do. But we invite you to join us anytime. Our services start at 10:15 on Sunday mornings in Old Fort, North Carolina. You can contact us, and I'll give you the address. And we'd love to have you. If you just need someone to counsel with you, you can contact us, and we will make that available to you. So our time is about up for this episode, and we hope that you will join us again, and we will talk about different subjects that come along the way. And join us every other Sunday on the Church of St. David page and the Let's Talk About It group. Go and join that group. I will say this, we answer every question, and sometimes we get questions that are sent multiple times by different people, and that's okay. We answer them all. Not all of them will make it on our Let's Talk About It broadcast. Some of them may make it on this Let's Talk About It Minute broadcast, but not all of them. But we do answer them all. And I'm trying to get better about posting many of the questions that you can read on the Let's Talk About It page. So Let's Talk About It with Bishop Ed Morrow and Bishop Ronnie Harbin. Look us up on Facebook. Come and join us and follow us there. Follow us also on the Celtic Church of the Way YouTube video. And we will be uploading this video and videos in the future onto YouTube. We're trying to build our YouTube ministry. If we get up to 50 followers, we can start having live broadcasts on YouTube. So we're working toward that direction, and we hope that you will help us out with that. Go and subscribe to Celtic Church of the Way. But for tonight, we're going to call it quits for the night, and I'm going to get home to my family. And I pray blessings upon you in the name of the Father and Son and the Holy Spirit. And have a wonderful night.